Hey, Matt.
Hey, Nicole.
Hey there. Today we are talking with Bradley Rice
Yes.
with Talent Stacker. I'm really excited to talk with him. Today he's going to share with us if you've ever struggled with thinking what that next step is for you, what the next step for you in your business, maybe something you can add to your agency. He is going to open up a completely different world that exists all around us all the time, and you may not be aware of it. So if you've ever struggled with getting some inspiration, this is the show for you. Hey, if you're an entrepreneur who usually fast forwards intros just like this one, this is the podcast for you. Serial Entrepreneurs. I'm Nicole Schmid, a human jump starter, a money detective. I'm also a marketer and a mom.
And I'm Matt Dooley. I'm a dad, a room energizer, rule breaker, and ironically, yes, an attorney. And we're serial entrepreneurs.
If you have a business or two, or maybe even 7, and you've at least thought about creating your next revenue stream,
or hey, maybe you dismissed the dream because someone told you that's shiny object syndrome.
We might be the first to tell you this isn't about shiny objects.
Or squirrels.
No, this is the real life of an entrepreneur. No fluff. We're here to offer you the strategies that work and let you know you're not alone. And if you're still listening, I bet you're a serial entrepreneur too. Bradley, tell me, how would you finish this sentence? You know you're an entrepreneur when?
You're losing sleep every night because you can't stop thinking through situations and ideas and things that you could improve in the world. And no one's asking you to think about it. No one's asking you to fix anything, but you're still losing sleep over it every single night.
That is so good. I love it. That's a great one. We haven't heard anything like that before, have we, Matt?
Yeah, not like that. I like the losing sleep thing because that really does define us really well. And I'm surprised no one's talked about the losing sleep thing.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I can't sleep. I'm telling you, there are nights when my wife is like, go to bed. I'm like, I can't. She's like, what are you thinking about work? And I'm like, not my work, somebody else's.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love it. I really love the losing sleep. I completely identify with all the reasons. And so tell us, what business do you own?
Yeah. So I think I've sort of got to give a quick background to me. I came out of college with no idea what to do as far as getting a job. It was, oh yeah, you've got a degree, and so everything's going to be fine. And then everything was not fine. And I think that's a typical story, right? Yeah. It's like you hear it all the time. And I was fortunate. I didn't have a lot of student loan debt because we had scholarships and this and that. But the bottom line is I still came out. I made a 4-year time investment. And I just felt like I didn't have anything to show for it. So I ended up applying for, we're talking every single job. I interviewed for a job to go back to my college and wear this face mask that you would dictate into. And it was for the deaf and hard of hearing students. And so I wanted that job because I just wanted any job. And so I would sit in seminars. That was the goal. I never got the job because they wouldn't have me. With a 4-year degree from that university, they wouldn't have me to wear a mask and talk into this machine that would dictate it into notes. And then I would hand off those notes to the deaf and hard of hearing students at the end of the seminar. Wow. And I couldn't get the job. When I say I was applying for everything, I was applying for everything. And I ended up getting interviewed for a job as a junior Salesforce administrator. And I had no idea what that was. Yeah. And I remember they said, hey, Brad, we'd like to meet with you. We're going to send you a go-to meeting. And I had no idea what go-to meeting was. And I was
what year was this?
Yeah. What year was this? That's exactly
2010. So I was like, go-to meeting. And I was talking to my girlfriend at the time, now my wife. And I was like, they said go to meeting, but they didn't tell me where to go for the meeting. And
my gosh.
I thought it was in person. And so unbelievably, maybe this is a fault of theirs. They actually ended up giving me the job at the end of this. And I just knew that I needed to take control of this. Like I finally had a job. It was a full-time job. I made about $35,000, but I had benefits and I had everything I could ever dream of. And I was stable and everything was good. And from there, it was a rocket ship. The next year I was making $65,000. The next year I was making $110,000 by 26 years old. So I came out of college at 21. At 26 years old, I capped out at over $200,000 working part-time. I was working 20 hours a week, making $225,000 a year. And that's profit, by the way, just so we're clear. Yes. And the reason I was working 20 hours a week, a lot of people latch onto that. They're like, why 20 hours a week? Couldn't you do 40 hours a week and make $400K? And the short answer is, yeah, I probably could, but I would be working really hard and a lot of hours. And the catalyst for that 20-hour work week was my daughter. And so as soon as my wife, we found out she was pregnant, it was like, even though I was working from home, it was like, I'm coming downstairs at 5:30. I think based on this book I'm reading, my kid's going to be going to sleep at 6:30 or 7. What does that leave me with? Like 5 days a week, I'm going to see her for like an hour. That doesn't check out.
Yep.
And so I know for a lot of people, they're okay with that. And that's cool. But for me, when I thought about it, I was like, no, I got to try to do something different. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but I got to try. And it worked out. And I ended up getting my work week down to 20 hours a week and doubling my income through just being more creative about the work I was doing.
Nice.
Incredible.
Nice.
I love it. So I have to go to a different story for a second before we come back to the business you own.
Yeah.
You just shared something really special about dads and daughters. I say, if kids can see it, they can be it. So where did you see, or what was the parenting situation like for you growing up that you knew you would have wanted more time with her at go?
My dad worked a typical full-time job. He commuted a couple hours each way. He wouldn't get home until, 5, 6 o'clock. I grew up on a cattle farm. So when dad got home, it was time to work. We worked on the farm before school, went to school. Yes. When dad got home from work, we were back to work on the farm. So it was a very productive, but also very taxing childhood. And at the time I didn't mind. It was just life. Yeah. And then I think when I got to college,
it was time with dad.
It was. It was.
Not everyone gets that time with dad. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true too. And it was dedicated time and we were together. And I think when I got to college, I regretted it a little bit. It was, man, like, why'd you put us through that? Do you really have to make your kids like do all that? And now at this age, I'm like, wow, like the values I got from that upbringing, that's huge. And I don't know if it came from that, but I do know that as soon as it took us 2 years to have our first child or to get pregnant. Mm-hmm. And so by the time we got to that moment of, we want to do this, we had thought through this so many times of like, we want to be parents. We want to have a child. This is why we want to do this. And when the time finally came and it was a reality and it was like, pregnancy test says positive, this is happening. That's when it became very real. And it was like, okay, what kind of life do I want to live? Do I want to spend time working and like building wealth for my child, or do I want to spend time with her? And we were fortunate to be able to do both. But what I knew in that moment was that if she graduates from high school and she goes off into her life at 17, 18 years old, and we don't have any money for retirement hardly because we've just been getting by on half a paycheck, then I can live with that. I'm not going to regret that because I got to spend that time with her. But if I don't, and I had this opportunity and I didn't take it, I might regret that. So I'm going to go with the one I'm guaranteed not to regret. And so that was part of that decision.
I always ask everybody, like, is there, because either we learn it by having it or by not having it, by, maybe a mentor or an uncle or somebody else, but we usually see something, or sometimes we think, oh, that's the thing that's going to screw me up. Thanks, parent. Later, we're like, no, that was the good stuff. And so that's really beautiful.
I knew there was this one version where if I just worked a full-time job, 40, 50 hours a week, there's a potential I might regret that decision. And I just I was hedging my bet, right? It's a very logical choice. I'm hedging my bet against something I might regret and something I know I definitely won't regret. So let me just err on the side of the one I definitely won't regret, and we'll be okay.
That was fantastic. So.
Okay. So now tell me, what business or businesses do you own?
All right. I will finally answer your question. So I feel like with that background, so what happened was, at 31 years old, I went through this process from 21, 10 years later, 31. I was in a position to retire because I was very frugal. Again, I grew up as a farmer's kid and we weren't big on stuff. So I never valued stuff much. And I valued time and the time that I spent with people and the people around me. And so by the time I got to 31 years old, my daughter was 4 years old. And I was like, this is it. Like, I'm living the life. This is amazing. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know I don't want to do this consulting grind anymore. I'm 31, but I wasn't done at the same time. So I was talking to my wife and I was like, I don't want to retire though. Like, I've got so many years of just productivity and things I can do. And I went on a podcast and I talked about lifestyle design, and we ended up talking about tech careers and Salesforce and what I had done. And people were just all over it. I had hundreds of emails. I had hundreds of people reaching out, and we started a Facebook group called Salesforce for Everyone. And we brought some people in there. I think we had about 70 people to get started that just signed up after going to that podcast. They were like, I want to join this free group. And I helped 40 of those 70 people one-on-one land jobs. That was what I was doing basically with my retirement, was teaching people how to do what had led me to a life that I actually enjoyed, like something I really looked forward to. And I thought, wow, these people's lives are changing. This is so cool. When you have success like that, what I did is I interviewed all 40 of those people, every single one of them. And I took notes on what is it that's happening here? Is this repeatable? Are there steps here that we can repeat? And it was beyond repeatable. It was like 80 to 90% of what they were doing was the same thing. Everybody was doing the same thing. So I just started basically masterminding these concepts and how do we do it better? And how do we get not 1% better, but like 20% better at all of these concepts? And of course, when you're seeing success like that, people are like, you got to join this group. I got this job. It was so cool. And now we have 15,000 people a year later in that group. It's because they're hungry for whatever that life-changing thing is. And so I realized very quickly, I've lost control of being able to help people one-on-one. I need a way to scale this. I need a way to give my knowledge and the knowledge of the people I'm learning from without having to do this one-on-one or in small groups. So that was the birth of the company that I now operate called Talent Stacker. And so it's this idea that you have all these talents, and when you combine them together, you come up with something that's basically indispensable. And nothing is truly indispensable, but it's pretty darn close to it. And what we did is I basically just started creating content and one-on-one like interview help, job search strategies, how to build your personal brand, how to get certifications and the specific skills that you're looking to gain knowledge in. And just going from start to finish. I don't care who you are. We talked earlier about somebody coming out of the Amish community, but we've had truck drivers and mail carriers and stay-at-home parents and everything in between who are, for whatever reason, ready for a change in their careers. And we're giving them an option. I'm not saying it's like what they should go do, but we're giving them an option and a clear path forward to do a tech career, specifically Salesforce jobs, which is exactly what I did. I was a Salesforce professional. We're showing them that clear path to how can I get a job that's fully remote with full benefits and it pays great? And how can I learn these skills? And it turns out, going back to the metrics, because I know we love analytics, the success that we've seen is, on average, if you're listening right now and you go, okay, I'm going to start right now, what do I do? So first, go over to talentstacker.com/now. And then just save that page and now come back and listen to the podcast. And now you've started. Okay. So the moment you opened up that website, you have begun. So on average, from this moment that just happened, it's going to take 4 to 5 months to go from wherever you are today to being a Salesforce professional. On average, your starting salary is about $70,000 to $75,000 with full benefits, fully remote, all that fun stuff. The more incredible part of this, and it still blows my mind even talking about it now, is that with 1 year of experience, on average, you're going to get paid about $90,000, $95,000. With 2 years experience, 110 to 120, 3 years, 130 to 150. You're going to cap out probably in the 150 to 180 range, unless you decide to go into management or directing a team or something like that. Okay. You're probably going to cap out at like a 250 mark, something like that. So it's incredible. We're not talking about 10 years, 20 years, 40 years to be tenured. Talking like 2 or 3 or 4 years to be tenured.
Bradley, when it comes like real estate, hey, I have a career in real estate, go to school part-time, go for 9 months at nighttime, do this, go take your exam, and then just go after it. You found a different mechanism and have the numbers and data to prove it too, as well, to support that anybody can do this. Anybody can go down this path and you can follow the system.
I spent those 10 years, my career of 10 years, effectively like what you do as a Salesforce professional. So this will sort of lead you to how I get to this point of being so analytical about the way businesses work, is that as a Salesforce professional, what you're doing is you're taking a business, every process from how do we get new leads? How do we get those leads to become customers? How do we support those customers? How do we sell them additional product now that they are a customer? All those processes, that's what you're streamlining. That's what you're automating. That's what you're understanding and then building into a tool like Salesforce. And that's why you're so valuable. You're taking a company that maybe makes $100,000 a month and you can scale them into $1 million a month company. It's because you automated and streamlined those processes, which makes the business scalable very quickly. And that's what allows you to take a business from where it is today, because you're using amazing tools that have been developed. You make a lot of money for these companies. It's easy for them to throw $100K at a salary when you're 10xing their company revenue.
Right. So Bradley, I have heard you talk about reaching $2.5 million in just 18 months. And that's something crazy. Really, really impressive results. But what I've heard is there's another metric that is more important to you than the dollars. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I think the most important metric to me is the number of people who land jobs. So that's the whole mission of what we do is we help people land tech jobs. And the truth of it is we started a company 18 months ago, and our first year in business, we made like $2.5 million or something crazy. And it's absurd. My goal was to make $5,000 a month. It did better than that. And that's awesome. But the more important thing still applies. It's like, how many people can we change lives for? And that's the real metric that we look at, is like, what percentage of our members are landing jobs and doing what we were supposed to do. I think the thing that excites me most are people who don't consider themselves tech people and they're just ultra imposters. I can never be a tech professional. And we had somebody whose family actually broke Amish. She grew up Amish family. So her background was homesteading and hard work and perseverance and these kind of things. And then she was listening to a podcast. What do you know? And she was really interested in this idea of these careers where you work from home, because she had a quilting business. And she wanted to continue the quilting business, but also get into this tech world that was really sort of new and exciting to her. And so that's what I love. Like, to me, the metric is, how many people can we say you really can start a tech career no matter who you are? And then even more exciting to me, it's how unbelievable is the transformation story, because those are the ones where I'm like talking to family at dinner, like, you won't believe this. It's the craziest thing.
I got a lawyer to quit his actual law practice today.
Right. Exactly. I was on a podcast with this guy named Matt, and he just straight up quit the podcast and
it walked off the show and everything. It was great.
That's right. So awesome. Our most important metric, are we delivering? Are we getting people jobs when we said we would?
So a conversion ratio of who comes to the challenge to who actually does what the challenge was designed for, bottom line, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Wow. I have to say, where I want to dive in with you, numbers are impressive. Everyone will be impressed by those for sure. Bottom line is always even more impressive. I had somebody recently reach out to me and say, look at this woman, all these followers that she's getting. She showed me a screenshot of where this acupuncturist was sharing her results, right? Now, privately inside of a group, where she was really proud of her TikTok, her Reels, her Facebook followers. And then she was saying in her next paragraph, and now I want to teach other health professionals how to do this. But all I saw was, as a marketer, as an entrepreneur, I always see a vanity metric, of course, when somebody mentions the follows. But all I saw was, in all of those follows for acupuncture, you must not have been hitting your best customer, your perfect people, as Rachel Miller says. You must not have been hitting that, because your practice of poking people with little itty bitty filament needles would be so busy. Your job would be about onboarding, hiring, running an office at scale, figuring out ways to get other locations. To me, that's what I love, is like seeing building of growth, right? Just like you talked about, like, the most important thing is that they land those tech jobs. And so for this person who's sending this to me and feeling enamored, I have to like pop the bubble and say, there's a disconnect for me as a marketer. Why is she moving on to now teach this? I'm reading through the lines and seeing that, all power to her. If she shouldn't be an acupuncturist, and if she should be an influencer, and if she should be doing something different, that's great. But I never want people to read that message and miss, to me, what the real message is. So I love that you shared what's happening in your business is one thing, and then what's happening with the transformations, actually how you're helping that happen with challenges and with courses and things like that, right? Really powerful. A lot of times people share their revenue number, their big shiny number, and they leave out, that's why the show's here. They leave out the middle.
Yeah, I just think it's fun to always be that person to pop the bubble. I've got that logical mind too, where it's like, I can't just take things at the surface value. It's like, you look at it and it's like, yeah, that's really pretty on the surface. And it's like, but what's really happening underneath? And like the other thing too, for me, from a business perspective, do I care about the followers and subscribers and all that kind of stuff? Like, yeah, I do. But when you look at metrics for actually converting, you need an email address. That's the only thing that matters. And people think it's so old school. They're like, oh, you got an email? Wow, congratulations. And that's all that matters. I could make a YouTube video, a LinkedIn post, an Instagram post, a TikTok video. And if they're not on those platforms today, I miss them. Yeah, but I've got their email address and I can drop it in their inbox, and they've got to respond or open it or delete it or unsubscribe. They got to take action. But me making a YouTube video doesn't require them to do anything. But there's a lot that goes into that. And it's the same thing with revenue numbers, because once you get into it, it's like, hey, this is our revenue. Isn't that amazing? And it's sort of one of my pet peeves when people try to dictate or describe the success of what their business is based on revenue. Your results are what is important. It's not your revenue. And by the way, tell us your profits. If you actually want to tell us, then your revenue doesn't matter because you might have a 10% profit margin. So it doesn't matter.
And I gotta jump in. My best year in law, when I was a solo practitioner by myself, grinding it out, doing everything the book told me how to do as a lawyer, I did over 400 grand. I did a lot with only very limited staff. The numbers made sense. I was like, wow, I was growing my practice, everything like that. But you want to talk about real numbers and talk about what was really happening. I was pretty much like on borderline, like divorce, because I worked like 90 hours a week. I was miserable because I was around bankruptcy clients all day long. Let's see. Oh, by the way, my accountant said, why are you killing yourself? We're showing you at 70 grand for income this year. So going back to the numbers, what was really happening?
Yeah. Looked really cool in an Instagram post though, right?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Is there something that's really would be surprising? The question is, I guess, that I want to ask is, what would be something that is surprising that people heard about you or the early days of your business that they'd be like, really? That happened? Besides breaking Amish, because that one's already pretty shocking.
That's pretty big. Yeah.
I think the early days of the business, I think some of the stuff we've talked about today, I think to me, it's pretty shocking that my goal as a business owner from day one was to try to make $5,000 a month. And I didn't expect to do that on month one. That was probably a 1-year plan, get this thing built up to a $5,000 a month business. But for anybody and our members, they keep up with the numbers. They know what they pay and they know how many members are in the program. It quickly went from $5,000 a month to hundreds of thousands of dollars a month very quickly. And I think that's because we were doing good stuff for people and we cared about people and we weren't in it for the money. Because again, I was in a position to retire. This wasn't about making a bunch of money. It was more of just how can we help people? So yeah, I think the surprising thing for people would probably be how involved I am. I think that's surprising to people is that I'm still in there on the ground talking to everybody inside of our community, even though we have 10, 15,000 people in our free groups. We have 1,000, I think 1,500 people now in our paid groups. And I'm always in there. I'm talking to people. I respond to every message. And I think that makes them think we're not as successful as they might think we are. They're like, but if they were that successful, he wouldn't be here talking to me right now. He'd be off on a boat somewhere. And it's just not true. It's just the passion for what we're doing. I could care less how much money the business ever makes. At the end of the day, I'm in it for the people and I want to experience the life change with them. So I'm going to be right there beside them as we go through this because it's not as exciting for me if I had nothing to do with it.
My question for you would then be, what has been the most difficult thing about scaling to the level you're at now? What's the most difficult thing about owning a business at the size it is today now for you?
That's an easy one for me. This has been the most challenging business that I've ever tried to create. It's also the most rewarding business that I've ever created. It reminds me of kids.
Okay.
They challenge you more than you ever knew you could be challenged. It's insane waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning with somebody like fully energized in your face and then unwilling to go to sleep on time. It's crazy. It is the most rewarding thing you're probably going to do in your life. So it's twofold. And that's the same way with Talent Stacker. It is the most challenging thing. And I think it's because I care so much about it. The same thing with kids, right?
So here's what I'm going to get a little more granular with you, Bradley. Is it something in the ops? Is it something on the sales side? Is it something about serving
So the specific answer is it's having people attack you like you're not a real person, like you're a business. And it hurts just as much to get an email or see somebody call you out by name on social media.
Okay. Yeah.
And they don't know you. So they're attacking you because from their point of view, they're attacking this business that's not a real person, but they're saying, hey, Bradley Rice, you're a liar. Because I've got a friend who's been a Salesforce professional for 10 years and they don't make that kind of money. And I'm going, I can't help it that your friend wasn't on the most efficient path. That's why I'm trying to teach people the most efficient path to success here. So I think for me, the hardest thing, and I'm still working on this, and I talk to my wife a lot about it, I'm getting experience as a business owner, and I need more years of experience before I'm good at it. And it's not being good at running the business or doing operations or helping people succeed. It's getting good at being vulnerable and putting yourself out there. And when you help 20,000 people kickstart their careers, you're bound to get a handful of people that are going to attack you. And yeah, it sucks to deal with the naysayers, but at the same time, I am getting a lot better at it. I'll tell you that.
Good.
I want everyone to have opportunities. I feel really good because they've got a really good company that's loyal to them and they're loyal to the company. that's awesome. And they can have that opportunity with this. If they want to start their own independent consulting and freelancing on the side, and they want to be digital nomads and travel the world and work 5 hours a week and make $50K a year, awesome. They've got that opportunity. If they want to manage a team, if they want to own a company, whatever they want to do, it's up to them. And I think that's the real goal. I want you to be able to live the life you want to live based on the values you have. And Salesforce Career is just a method to be able to do that.
There you go.
So Bradley, for any of the listeners out there who might be course creators themselves, or anyone who's considering how they can get into the digital space like you have, what's the one thing you want to remind us to think about that our clients struggle with? How should they go about it different? I know you have a few ways that you did that. Can you tell us more?
I see so many programs, and I think it's because people struggle to think outside of the box a little bit, even when they think they do. And so we grow up in this methodology around education that's, all right, you go to school and it's you 180 days out of the year from kindergarten through 12th grade.
Yep.
And then you go to college if you decide to do that. And then you have a semester and then another one. And that's how that works. And that's the way a lot of people have designed e-learning platforms too. It's sure. We've got our boot camp, we've got our program, and it starts in August and it ends in December. And it's, wow, what an original thought to have a semester. And then, I love it. And then it's, oh, I missed a class. I missed a week because life happened and I had a health problem or my kid was sick or whatever else. And it's, oh, that's okay. You just pick up on next week because the world doesn't stop for you because now, and it's so rigid and it's the way everything works. It's, oh, my family's going on a month-long vacation. Oh, that's okay. So you'll just pick up and you'll miss all that. And there's no way to get it back. And so the way we designed this was very flexible because I didn't care what everyone else had done forever. It doesn't matter. It's unimportant. What was important is I was trying to design something that actually works for real people. And so it's this very flexible environment where if you can put in 5 hours a week, cool. If you can put in 50 hours a week, awesome. And we can work with you because not everybody's living the same life. We have unemployed kids coming out of college who are ready to just go after it. And then we have people late in their careers. They might be in their mid 50s and they're just looking for something for the next 5 years to finish off this marathon and be done with it. And it's a totally different part of life that you're in. And so the program has to be flexible. Otherwise you cannot serve people because it's not a one size fits all. It just isn't.
So we've talked a lot about Talent Stacker. So I'm just going to ask, what is Salesforce saying about this? Are they like, hey, when somebody needs to recruit somebody, go check out what they're doing over here? They've got to have heard the name by now. And then you've worked with them for years. You now are on different places that some of their people are listening to. So what are they saying?
Yeah. So Salesforce is a fan for sure, because we serve their ecosystem. So I would say, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I would say one of the top 3 biggest issues for Salesforce it's not a company anymore. It's an industry. Like we're talking about millions of jobs.
Yes.
Right. It's not like a company with 1,000 employees or whatever else. Like it's millions of jobs because it's not just the company Salesforce. It's hundreds of thousands of their customers who need full-time employees. So you end up with millions of jobs out here in the Salesforce industry. And so one of the top 3 biggest issues, I would consider it the top issue, but I'm a little biased, is that the problem is they're growing so fast because they have an amazing tool. As consumers, we don't really care about back-end process tools like Salesforce. Businesses care a lot about it, but I would compare it to the smartphone, where if you think about how life-changing and groundbreaking having a smartphone was for efficiency, having everything in one place, having all these apps that you can access to do your bank records, to play video games, to call your mom, to surf the internet, to whatever you need to do. You can do it all one place right here. That's the efficiency that Salesforce gave businesses when it started. And that's why I think it was founded in like 1999, 98, something right in there. By 2003 or 4, it was worth $20 billion. So can you like imagine starting a company and then 5 years later being worth $20 billion? It's crazy. And so obviously it was valuable. 18 years later, 2022, it's worth over $200 billion. So you can see the value has continued to add. And it's the same, you see those type of metrics with groundbreaking companies, iPhone or Apple or these groups, all of that to say, so Salesforce loves us because one of their biggest issues is going to be, okay, we added 1,000 new customers last month. Who are they going to hire? Because no one's upskilled to do these jobs. And you can look at industry surveys, but I think the surveys that are promoted are like 3 million new jobs are going to be added to the Salesforce market in the next 4 years. So let's be conservative. Let's say that's all just, they're blowing smoke. They're including numbers that don't exist. So let's say there's going to be 1 million jobs added over the next 4 years, 250,000 jobs a year. We helped last year, just over 1,000 people start Salesforce careers.
Incredible.
That's nothing, but
right.
it's awesome. It feels really good.
No, but it's incredible that it's a drop in the bucket.
It's just a drop. If you can even call it a drop, because we got to get 250,000 people jobs. 1,000 helps, but it's still a sinking ship. You're trying to get the water out with a spoon.
Yes. So I wanted to dig in as the business owner, talk about the last 18 months, the last 2 years, wild ride, end of statement for wild ride for anybody. End of statement. Wild ride for any business owner, the last 18 months, 2 years, end of statement. For you, talk about a pandemic pivot. What could have been nice and safe and 31, ready to retire. You could have talked about lifestyle design. You could have written books. You could have been on that boat. I don't even care if it was just in Michigan near us, hanging out and just kept it low key. But you tackled global pandemic. We've seen numbers like 40 to 60% of full-time employees prior to 2020 saying, hey, we got to go. You're tackling women who have realized, you know what? Hey, I have to be at home. I have to do pickup. I have to do drop off. I have to do anything in between. Those women are saying, I'm not returning to the workforce. I think that the numbers were as high as 40+% saying there's not even that option for me anymore. And even if there was, you can keep it because you guys don't treat me great there either. No, exactly. And you took all that on. And naively, so I'll say beautifully saying if we can do $5,000 a month, that'd be cool. That'll make it feel like I did something where boom, nope, you're going to stay up nights on end. You're going to be like your children who are up and energized and then also fight bedtime to your wife. This is the place where I want to say, what in the world, the conversations you must have been having with folks, what you as a business owner are saying wow, this is a big pivot and people are ready to make a pivot in their own lives. What's that like? You're talking to people who are finding these new careers. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think one word is humbling. It is unbelievably humbling to think, I just never thought that I would have anything to say that anyone cared to hear at more than just a small group meeting with friends. Why would I have anything to say that anybody cares about? And it's not like I designed that. It just happened. It was just through fortune of life that I ended up sitting in front of these opportunities, but I took them. When they came, I took them. And I think that's the difference is I think we're all faced with opportunity, but it's the difference between whether you take the time to grab it when you have it, or if you just let it go away. And I'll say, I know I'm not answering your question too well right now, but I will say that two fundamental things that stand out to me are people think a lot about opportunity cost when it comes to money. And that's where that conversation ends. And so it's the more money you have, the more disposable income you have, the more opportunity that you will find falling in front of you. I think it was Warren Buffett that said, once you don't need money anymore, it's raining money and you have to figure out where to put the bucket. So when you have disposable income, you end up in this position where maybe you have a friend who wants to start a business or an investment opportunity you'd like to get into, or a rental property you could purchase. Well, when you have money, you can take opportunity. What people don't realize is there's also opportunity cost with time. And when your time is capped out, just like when your budget's capped out, you have no time to take opportunities when they come to you. And if I was working a 40, 50, 60-hour week, full-time consulting, making that money, I don't think I would have had the time or the energy to even consider starting Talent Stacker as a business. It wouldn't have been a potential because I would have been capped out on my time.
Yes.
And because thankfully, there's many reasons to be thankful for my daughter, but because she came around, I rethought life and how I spent my time and got down to that 20-hour work week, which gave me the time to take control of this opportunity. So when my brain or whatever occurred, I'm sure there were a lot of influences that said, you should do this. You should take this opportunity and do this. I wasn't capped out on time. I had time to spend on this endeavor. And that's what made it possible because it allowed me to do 10 hours a week and poke around with it and see if it's going to work. And you get 40 people jobs just poking around. And it's hey, we can do this. We can do this repeatedly. And it never would have happened if I had a full-time job. So taking on everything you mentioned. So you said I took that on in a naive way. You are 100% right. I had no idea.
I'm sorry, that's funny. You're 100% right.
I had no idea. Keep in mind, I grew up in rural West Georgia. Most people in that area referred to it as East Alabama because they would not claim us as Georgia because we were just in the boonies. You're not Georgia, you're Alabama. And I didn't mind that. But from a cultural exposure standpoint and an exposure to the politics of life and the things that people care about and progressive culture, I was not exposed to that. It's not like we were some redneck, just totally just racist family or anything. As far as people caring a lot about glass ceilings and pushing rights forward for different groups of people, I obviously like getting to be a consultant and getting exposed to a lot of that helped. But when I entered into this, it was like, wow, there's so much out here. Like I remember the time we had our first deaf person joining the program and we had to adapt. And it was like, I know nothing about this community, but I got to figure it out. But it's all those things. And it was better understanding gender equality, better understanding new things. All I can do is listen and do my best to talk to people and help in the ways that I can. And I go, and I 100% understand exactly where these people are coming from. Not a chance. I barely understand myself. How am I supposed to understand other people? So there was so much. And then you layer on people losing jobs because of the pandemic, but then you have people with aging parents and a health crisis. You have people with kids that are now in virtual school. And now, they're trying to learn Salesforce and they're working a day job and their kids are screaming in the background and it's absolute chaos. This became career counseling. This became life counseling. And I don't have all the answers for all of that. So all I could do is just do my best to humble myself, try to give what I could and just try to help people. Because again, going back to the question asked earlier, this isn't all about Salesforce. The passion behind this is about helping people change their lives for the better. And Salesforce isn't always the answer to that equation. But when it is, and they're involved in our community, we can help them in more ways than one. Yeah, man, you're like a beacon of hope. I love it. So here's the other thing that I wanted to get to. Again, you as a business owner, and you started to talk about it a little bit. I'd like to just try to dig into it. You started to say, there probably was something specific, or maybe there wasn't. And then you got to a place where you're like, well, it's because I didn't have a full-time job. But right before that, you had mentioned how you weren't paying attention to what everything in the online course world or the coaching world, I think there's something really strong that comes across through who you are. And as your brand presents itself to me, even just now on this call and we're on video, so I can see you and I can see just the way you hold yourself, carry yourself. And there's something you're doing to quiet all those voices out there. And I don't see you as someone who's ignoring any of those things. I think that there might be something special, magical there, how you do spend that other time that not everybody gets because of the demands of their life, demands of their work, or even losing work can feel like a different type of demand. So talk to me a little bit through, what are you doing? What are you finger painting on the wall to get quiet? Yeah, I think life is still busy, right? I think anybody who thinks you work a 20-hour work week and you're not busy is absolutely insane. I think when you layer on that I have a 5-year-old like right outside the door right now, it's nonstop. And I used to beat myself up a little bit because I would go, wait, you work 20 hours a week and it's 8:30 p.m. and you're exhausted. Why are you exhausted? All these other people should be exhausted. They're working 40-hour weeks plus learning Salesforce and landing new jobs. They're tired. You're not tired, Brad. Like you got to find it. And I realized I had to give myself a break because I spend the other time. So to answer your question, what do I do with the rest of my time? So when I hang up the mic today and I exit this room, I'm entering into my other life. I'm coming out of the virtual world and I'm entering into the other life. And that life is also really demanding. And so what do I do? So currently my life has been pretty crazy. What is it you do though? Is it that you travel? Is it you journal? What are you doing to help get your way, the Bradley way, to the world? Yeah. So when I'm off work, when I'm outside of this world, I spend a lot of time with my daughter. I don't really watch any shows that people are like, what do you watch on TV? And I'm like, I watch Bluey and I watch. It's not on Disney Plus. I don't know it. That's right. Exactly. So I watch a lot of kids shows. I do color quite a bit. You would be surprised at how much I color. Yes. I love it. Mainly because I am being strongly influenced and peer pressured into coloring every day. Yeah. So I spend a lot of time with that, but we do spend time. I enjoy getting outdoors. So we go on hikes. The
Cool.
beach is sort of this thing that sounds nice, but it's not as nice in person. So like we go to the beach again out of peer pressure from our 5-year-old.
He's rubbing it in right now, Matt. That's what that's called. I know. That's what.
No, but with a 5-year-old, no, I get it, because again, with a
No,
5-year-old, going to the beach, the cooler, packing everything, setting everything. It's not like when you were a teenager, when you're 20 years old and you just take a blanket and just go pop down at the beach, right? It's so much more.
No, you have to chase the water and run, and then you have to get really disgustingly sandy. But yeah, that's it. I mean, we're doing the typical thing, but I think we just have more time to do it's imagine whatever you're going to do on Saturday is what I'm doing from 12 to say 8 p.m.
Yep.
So it's still run of the mill. It's groceries and out to eat and what are we having for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and all that fun stuff. But it's a lot of taking a step back, taking a breath, and actually spending time together. So it's not like I have some massive hobby where I'm doing motocross after work or whatever. Sure. I would say my hobby is my wife and my daughter, and I'm spending my time with them and just soaking it up while it's here. Like, trust me, every time my daughter cuddles up to me, which is rare, she's just not a cuddler. She's a fighter. But every time she cuddles up to me, I just think, I've got this moment. I've got to take it while it's here because it may not be here tomorrow. So I just got to get it. So I think it's just having the time to enjoy that. And I think that allows me to get in the headspace of other people a little bit and truly understand their struggles. And I think at the end of the day, there are things that suck in people's lives and there are things that are really awesome in people's lives. And everybody has a little bit of both. And I just wish everybody could get a point where they get a little bit more of the awesome and a little bit less of the suck.
And that leads me to a question, because you're saying it right now. And that is, what is your definition of entrepreneurial success?
Oh, yeah. So my definition of entrepreneurial success would be to be able to pay your bills as a baseline. So first of all, get your bills low. Like, you don't need all this stuff. Try to minimize your expenses. And then if you could develop a business that just covers your baseline expenses, that's awesome. So I understand the need to cover sort of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But once you're done with that, once you've got that covered, I think it's how much can you impact the people you serve? Because I believe as an entrepreneur, you should be serving people. And that's my mindset. I know there are different business methods, but I would consider myself a servant leader. And everybody who is, whether you're part of our paid program or whether you're part of our free community, I don't really care that much, because you're somebody that I have taken on the responsibility of serving. And there's knowledge that I have that you don't necessarily have. And I'm going to do my best to get that over to you in a meaningful way. So I would say as an entrepreneur, it's, cover your baselines as a person and a family, but serving your community that you set out to serve and doing that a little bit better every day, that would be success to me. Even if you suck at it today, just get a little bit better every single day, not like every week or month. Every day you should be able to get just a little bit better. And when you do that, the compounding effect of that over 12 months, it's insane how incredible your business will be if you can just focus on innovating, not for your revenue, innovating for the people you're trying to serve.
Tell me, what's next for you? Is there something that you're adding, something that you're working on that you're excited about?
Yeah, always. I've got a list in front of me. It's our project ideas, our project timelines, all that fun stuff. So we just announced yesterday that we are changing the way that we look at educating people on getting certifications. And I think this could carry over into any certification, not just Salesforce, or when you're learning anything. Biggest issue, you're learning concepts like textbook concepts, but you're to pass a test, but you're not understanding real world application of those concepts. Mm-hmm. So we just introduced our certification build-alongs, where we actually have veteran consultants who are teaching you the concepts and then applying those to real world projects and showing you how those work. And you actually build along with them in your own Salesforce instance. So that was a huge one. We are debuting our Salesforce for Everyone podcast starting in April. Nice. So I love podcasts. It only made sense that we do our own. We're not going to do an episode a week or anything like that. We're going to do, we've got 8 episodes recorded. We're finishing up the editing. We'll get those out in April. And then we'll figure out what we want to do for the next series. But outside of that, we are always looking at new and innovative ways to improve the program and make sure we're serving people for a career, not just for this first job.
Incredible. And where's the best place if somebody wants to learn more about you? Where do they follow you? Where do they find you?
Number one best place to find me personally is on LinkedIn. So that's linkedin.com/n/Brad Force. And you will find me there. If you message me, I will message you back.
If you message me, they will come, Bradley.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bradley, for this time.
Thanks.
Really incredible.
Thank
Matt,
you.
did you have anything else?
I have one question I'm going to ask. So, Bradley, tell me this, though. A lot of your success, I can go back to as Salesforce has been compounding and growing throughout the years. One of the questions that's coming across my mind is there's also a lot of other CRM, project management tools, other things that are out there nowadays. Also, a lot of industry specific tools to specific industries, HIPAA compliance stuff, legal programs, things like that. Where does what you do fit into today's current climate?
Yeah, so I think it fits in pretty directly. You know, I have been successful being Salesforce adjacent my entire career now as a business being Salesforce adjacent. We're very reliant on the success of Salesforce for our own success. And I'm fully aware of that. And that's why I love still being in the position to retire at any given moment, because it feels like I can go all in on this without needing to constantly think about what I'm going to do tomorrow and if things go south. How do we fit into this? I think you can look at other companies. People ask me, they're like, Brad, why Salesforce? There's Infusionsoft and there's PeopleSoft and all these other little companies that are also CRM tools. And
sure,
I think the one thing I ask is, well, Salesforce has, number one, a huge market share, massive market share. If the market started pivoting, it's going to take at least a decade, if not decades, for you to see this completely go out. Plus, you have transferable skills as a Salesforce professional. So who's going to replace you? Let's say a competitor like Infusionsoft starts just somehow innovating incredible change and they're taking over. Well, guess who they're going to want to hire first to be their professionals?
Sure.
People who have related CRM experience and can maybe transfer those skills into whatever's taking Salesforce over. So your skills will transfer directly over into whatever the newest, hippest technology is. The other thing I'll say is it's a Salesforce flex. It's who's got the biggest skyscraper in San Francisco, who's opening up a headquarters in Seattle, Chicago, Atlanta, South Africa, who had their own Super Bowl commercial.
Bradley, legal tip right now. You can say, this is where I rest my case, Your Honor. Like,
you got it.
Awesome.
Was there anything we didn't ask you that you wanted to share with us? Something that you wanted us to know?
I feel like you guys did amazing. I love the different directions we went. I think we covered more than I could have ever imagined. It was awesome. I love this stuff. Thank you guys.
Hey, it's Nicole, and that's the end of the interview. But stick around. This is the part where Matt and I break it all down and give you our favorite takeaways. Listen in.
So, Nicole, takeaways. What is the first thing that comes to mind from this?
The one thing that first jumped off at me was not only did he niche down, I, of course, always caution people, like, don't get too caught up in that. But not only did he find one, land one that was right, his back pocket, what he was already up to and doing.
Yes.
He found one that could pay well. Please, this marketer always wants you to find a customer who can pay you and pay you well. I'm not saying that he was out there looking for somebody who could squeeze them dry. No, they may have come to him with having no opportunity, with no cash ready. They may have come from a bad situation, struggling situation. They were in the pandemic potentially, because that's when he started. They might have been affected by that, but he was taking them to a transformation that could still pay Talent Stacker to do what they're doing for them ongoing as a monthly program. Like, he was working with a niche that could pay him and pay him well. I think it's brilliant.
That was huge for me. And I will tell you, big takeaway for me was by certain has to be the numbers. He knew his numbers so well. He knows the numbers on, if you're just going to go work the business, follow what he tells you to go do, go work in the business. He's going to tell you what you're going to make year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. He knew it down to the T. But what I also appreciated about him is not only did he understand the value of time and money correlation together as working the job, but he also really does focus on the back end of just time. He knew his numbers on how to expound on his time. How much is his time actually worth? How much is your time worth? How much is it worth having a 20-hour week job versus a 40-hour week job? So it wasn't just about generating the income, but also acknowledging how much time are you buying back for yourself, whether you're working in a company or working your own company doing it. I thought that was phenomenal.
Yeah, I love it. So the last one, if we can tackle this one together, I wanted to pull up the exact Warren Buffett quote that he was getting to, because it's a great one. And I love a good quote. So Warren Buffett actually said, opportunities come infrequently. So when it's raining gold, reach for a bucket, not a thimble. And I wanted to point that out, that this guy, as he talked to us in the beginning, what I noticed and what I realized was somebody coming with an abundance mindset. I'm not just talking about wealth, because yes, he had the money to travel and do things, but he wasn't coming from a place of like stuff. This was a place of freedom. I remember there was a moment he said the word methods. That's when the light bulb went off for me, that there was somebody likely listening that couldn't even see this as a method for themselves yet, until Bradley, salt of the earth, like good guy,
just a good guy. Yeah.
And just explains it and shares it, and that this could be a method for them. And I know that not only somebody maybe listening today to our podcast, but I know because he talked about people breaking Amish, being truck drivers, being a mail carrier, that likely all of those roles in life are long-term. A truck driver doesn't start driving and think that they're not going to drive in just 2 years. They keep that CDL for a while.
Yes.
A mail carrier, your dad was.
They have a pension. Yeah. I mean, come on, they're not walking with a pension, right?
Right. And a built-in fitness plan. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. And then even Amish, right? So to me, to just consider that he is speaking to people that aren't even thinking this is an option for them, just reminded me on where we come at things when we come to things with an abundance mindset, what opens up to us today in this time, whether we call this information age, and we do have information coming at us from all different places, but to really soak it up, reach for that bucket, not a thimble. Okay.
No,
make sure you're
exactly.
catching goals.
He was he was very choosy what even industry he went in, as you stated.
I just think, how powerful is that? To really consider for all of us, no matter the situation, you can be thinking bigger for yourself.
Yes. I would just say that he blew my mind in that he is speaking to an audience of people that would not probably consider themselves part of the techie industry or tech world. And to be able to get them to expound their minds just a little bit, for them to understand that you could have a piece of this dream too as well, is just amazing.
And you get to hear it from a farm boy.
It wasn't Silicon Valley smooth talking. You weren't thinking like, the new tech startup.
Just somebody who had that servant's heart, who wants to serve. And I think that's powerful. He kept the main thing, which is how can he serve others?
Yep.
And he was able to capture those opportunities as they came to him. I loved it.
Fantastic.
Such a great show.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yep.
What do we always say? If you're listening,
keep listening.